It's a beautiful summer afternoon. The sky is pure azure blue, dotted with flocculent clouds. The chill of spring had long since disappeared, but the heat of summer had gradually strengthened its power, forcing people to sweat on their foreheads. All schools have changed into summer uniforms, and the streets are full of girls in white and black dresses, frolicking in groups. Under the shade of the tree, Yeji lay alone on the school lawn, in a daze. Everything seemed to come too suddenly, and he still hasn't reacted to it yet. The past is like smoke, vivid in my eyes. If it was all hallucinations, Yeji couldn't believe it, because the memories in his mind were too real. He didn't even know who he was. But, if that is true, then when he wakes up, the whole world seems to have undergone earth-shaking changes, and many things seem to be no longer what he remembered, as if he came to a parallel time and space. He is Yeji, but not Yeji either. A week ago, I knew I wouldn't drink so much, my headache is dead. Rubbing his temples, he got up from the bed in a daze. After getting up, the first thing he did was not to open his eyes, but to reach out and touch his mobile phone, but this time, he couldn't touch it smoothly. Slowly opening his eyes, he searched around for his baby phone. It's just that he soon discovered something was wrong. Where is this? The moment he started to think about this question, he already had the answer, but this answer made him feel absurd. This is my home? But my home is not like this, what's the matter? What's the matter? The confusion of memory made him at a loss, and the whole person fell into chaos. Until a familiar voice woke him up from this state. That voice was both gentle and familiar. It was obviously her mother's voice. Xiaoji, get up. If you don't leave, you'll be late for school. Going to school? It's been 9 years since I graduated. Yeji was stunned. Mom's urging voice came again, come here. 5 minutes later, you won't have breakfast. Got it, Mom, I'll get down soon. I'll find my cell phone first. But... cell phone? Where are there any mobile phones in this room? A small room that is barely 10 square meters. This room is full of textbooks, review materials, and test papers. All the things that students should have are here, but they are not. Cell phone? Yes, I'm only a sophomore in high school. Where did you get your cell phone? But this idea just came into being. Yeji was stunned. I'm only a sophomore in high school, I've been working for 10 years. What exactly is going on? At this moment, Yeji heard the sound of swift slippers hitting the soles of his feet, pia pia pias, and then, a cute loli who looked only about 8 or 9 years old appeared in his field of vision. Yeji! You idiot, get up quickly. Mom is calling you. Who is she? Is it my sister? Just when Yeji was thinking again, a slipper was placed on his face, and then, this little loli grabbed his arm and pulled him under the bed. Just before when his face was blinded, he was already dragged out of bed by this violent little loli. And then, it took him a whole week to try to sort out the two memories in his mind completely. His name is Yeji, Yeji of Earth. At the same time, it is also Blue Star's Yeji. Yeji of the Earth. He lives in the magic capital and is the second generation of demolition. Of course, there is no such thing as a super rich family. Before Yeji came out to work, it could only be said that it was 2 or 3 grades better than Xiaokong. With the rent and so on, the family's annual income was still sloppy. And with a local hyokao, he lived a relatively comfortable life, at least he didn't have any troubles in life. Yeji himself is still very good. After graduating, he quickly found a job as a designer. His work ability is good, and his work ability has risen steadily. With an annual salary of 1 million yuan, he is considered a successful person, but his personality is a little cold. And it's a bit too homey. Besides, and the most important point, Yeji was too good-natured and obedient. Everything from childhood to adulthood was properly arranged by his parents. He obeyed his parents' arrangements for majors in college, schools to be admitted to, and even some daily trivial matters. However, when he was 28 years old, his parents had a car accident while traveling abroad and left early. After that, after no one arranged his life for him, Yeji's life seemed to have become a mess, but his self-control ability was too strong. The originally pale life has become even more boring. There is no one who cares about him. I am in my 30s, not to mention girlfriends, even close friends are few and far between. Every day I live a repetitive and boring life of going to work and going home at 2 o'clock and one line. Although I have money, Yeji life. If there is a color to describe it, it should be a grey-white without any vitality. Because it seems that apart from working and earning money, everything around you seems to have lost its color. To put it simply, he seems to have just become a machine that can make money. He also thought about changing, but when he wants to take the first step, it has become what it is now. He once thought so, if there is a chance to do it again. I want to listen to my heart and go crazy once. Do what you really want to do, stop listening to your parents' advice, and be your true self. But he found one thing in desperation. He in Blue Star is not as good as he is on Earth. He is not the second generation of rich, the second generation of officials, or the second generation to be demolished, but the real poor second generation. However, his parents even sent him to a noble school with extremely high tuition fees. The family was just. Although it doesn't mean that the family has four walls, it can definitely be called a family in difficulty. There are not even rich relatives in the family who can help. So Yeji was wearing the school uniform that his father bought when he was a freshman in high school the year before. At that time, he only bought the 4 sets that the school stipulated to buy. It has been worn until now. I have to say that the quality of the school uniform is really good. 2 years later, still very strong. Apart from school textbooks, home exercises and materials are basically bought it. It should be calculated, from the senior of the 3rd year of high school, he bought it at an ultra-low price, or even for free. My father is a glorious postman, and my mother is a cashier in a supermarket. I heard that my parents used to have money when they were young, but I missed several opportunities to make a fortune. When buying a house also wobbly. Until the inflated housing prices in Magic Capital helped them make this decision. The educational level of my parents is not high, so I very much hope that Yeji will study hard so that he can live a good life in the future, at least not like them. His grades have always been among the best in the school, and he has won a lot of scholarships. He belongs to the poor students who are excellent in both character and study in the eyes of teachers. Of course, because the family is poor, it doesn't mean that he didn't suffer from scorn at school. But it is not discriminated against like in TV dramas and novels. It is already the 21st century, and in a big city like Modu, where can there be so many campus bullying, and sympathetic people still account for the majority now. Yeji is also very popular in the class, and the classmates who have a good relationship will invite him to dinner from time to time. Although life is relatively poor, but it seems to be quite fulfilling. Yo, Yeji, it's rare, you didn't go back to the classroom to read books and see beautiful women here. To see beautiful women? Are you talking about yourself? Yeji turned his head and looked at the person who was talking to him. Although she dresses like a boy, but from a biological point of view, she should be called she is a bit outrageous beautiful. Her eyes swept over her body inadvertently. Yeji twisted back, continued to look up at the sky, and answered lightly, well. Hey, do you want to be so cold? This is not cold, but Yeji doesn't know what to say. He, in fact, is not cold, on the contrary, he is actually a bit shy. It's not because he likes her, but because his personality is really shy, so in front of girls, Yeji always looks cold. It's not that he doesn't want to react, but he doesn't know how to react at all. The girl's name is Shen Lu. As far as appearance is concerned, if 100 points is a perfect score, Ye Ji might give it 85. Is it high? No, as a designer who has worked in the world's top 100 companies for 9 years, Ye Ji's vision is not low. She is really good looking, but maybe she has never cared about her appearance. And did not bother to dress up. With a little modification, it is definitely a goddess level. She secretly watched her face without rouge, but still outstandingly beautiful, with a sweet heart-shaped face, a pair of big amber eyes, and pink skin that was torn by blowing. The same short hair seriously affected her appearance. But this also made her look a little less charming and a little more heroic. Ye Ji finally retracted his gaze, seeing beautiful women would be addictive. The girl patted her buttocks and sat directly next to Ye Ji. Really, we've all been at the same table for more than a year, can't you just say a few more words to me? It has to be so tall. Cold. To be honest, I don't know what to say. There is no doubt that this is absolutely true. If Ye Ji's language communication skills with the opposite were not so lacking, he would not have been a single dog for more than 30 years. With Lan Xing himself, he may be almost 50 years. Thinking of this, Ye Ji couldn't help but laugh. Just, you can talk about anything you want. For example, how about giving me a reference for the math test in the afternoon? Ye Ji shook his head lightly and continued to look at the unpolluted blue sky. He was a little lost. You better do it yourself. You can't copy my test paper, so give up. Whether it is Ye Ji from Earth or Ye Ji from Blue Star, he is very talented in learning. He is smart and hard-working. He is not difficult to study at all, so he has no worries about the exam in the afternoon. Don't be so stingy, it's not like you don't know, I'm the worst in math, everyone is so familiar with it, you can give me a reference, if it's a big deal, I'll invite you to dinner. There will be a parent meeting next week, please she pretends to be a man, but she can still act like a spoiled child. It's not that I'm stingy. You really can't copy it. I'm not going to take the test in class this afternoon. I'm going to take the test in class 1. Taking the exam in class 1? Of course Shen Lu knew what this meant. Wow, he vomited blood. Discrimination. This is blatant discrimination. I want to complain. How can Shi Tai do this? Although Ye Ji is in the regular class, his grades are top-notch even in the key class. The teacher seems to have mentioned before that he will select a few people to take the test in the key class randomly. Obviously, Ye Ji is one of them. I can't help you, so you should seek more happiness on your own. OMG, Ye Ji looked at Shen Lu who was covering his face and shouting, and looked at this very second-class action and tone, but he had a good face, but he looked a little cute. He seemed to feel that his heart had become younger, and he was barely pulled out an awkward smile. How dare you laugh at me? Damn yet, are you still human? Forward. It turned out that this smile turned into a mockery in the eyes of others. Ye Ji's smile gradually froze, turned into a touch of bitterness, and immediately got up and patted his ass. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. The rest time is enough, he should also fight for his future, dream, or something, if you have it, you have to have money. Gone. Seeing that he was standing up, Shen Lu quickly got up and stopped him, don't go. After she hesitated and struggled for a while, she could see her inner struggle from her expression. Finally, under Ye Ji's scrutiny eyes, Shen Lu said hesitantly, can't you change into a school uniform? Do you know that you affect the image of the class so much? I try my best. Seeing Ye Ji running away quickly, Shen Lu stomped her feet angrily. Her delicate and pretty face couldn't express her frustration. Shen Lu. You big coward, you didn't say anything, are you an idiot? Such a rare opportunity. Ye Ji is a science student, before and now. But his real dream is to become a big star, a really influential big star. He doesn't like the feeling of loneliness. He wants to be noticed, but he really wants to. Coercion. He has been a low-key person since he was a child. He used to have money in his family, but he was really good but never showed off his wealth. Now he is really poor. It was really forced. Although he also knows that his dream may not be so easy to achieve, but people still have dreams, maybe someday they will come true? What's more, he is still a rebirth, with his own plugins. If he doesn't have a wonderful life, how can he be worthy of this opportunity? Even if it is salted fish, you can use a spatula to turn him over in the pot. What's more, he is not a salted fish. Even if it is a salted fish, he is still an ambitious salted fish. The salty one. In the eyes of other students in the class, Yeji is a typical scholar. Although he never thinks he is a scholar, fortunately, he does have a good brain. Yeji himself must be admitted. At least, he felt that since he was reborn, his mind seemed to be clearer than before. This time the mock test will also allow him to see what level he can reach. That is, when Yeji saw this test paper, Yeji didn't start writing immediately, but stared at it seriously. After reading it for a long time, his brows slowly twisted from the original state of relief. This time, the invigilator in class 1 happened to be what Shen Lu referred to as Shi Taiju, a female teacher who was about 40 years old. She is also Yeji's class teacher and teacher Li Yun, who teaches mathematics. In teacher Li Yun's eyes, Yeji has always been a representative of a good student. Usually, for such a long time, he may have almost finished the multiple choice questions, but this time he just stared at the paper in a daze. It's relatively high, but it doesn't make him stumped, right? Why don't you write? Why is this? Yeji even had a thin layer of sweat on his forehead, maybe because he was too focused, he was mumbling to himself subconsciously. Teacher Li Yun asked inexplicably, why? How can it be so simple? This nonsense is really unpredictable. A male classmate sitting next to Yeji almost laughed when he heard this. He was really convinced by Yeji. As we all know, Li Yun has the laudatory name of Mijua Shitai. What good stubble! She is notoriously strict in school. Yeji, a comrade, actually dared to pretend in front of her. This wave of manipulation. If it wasn't for the exam, he wouldn't have been able to resist giving him a wave of 666. However, when he provoked Shitai during the exam, he was really worried that Yeji would overturn. Fortunately, Mr. Li Yun is quite tolerant towards a good student like Yeji. She just patted him on the shoulder, do the problem well. But, something is really wrong with me. Yeji didn't say these words, his pupils trembled, and his eyes were full of disbelief. He doesn't just think that these topics have become easier. It's that simple. It was more like when he saw these questions, his originally relatively dull thinking suddenly became incomparably clear. Some of the questions that were still difficult for him to answer, it seemed that just after reading the questions, the whole problem-solving idea had already been solved. Presented in front of you. This feeling is like suddenly entering a very special state. In this state, the brain's thinking speed is almost dozens of times faster than usual. After solving a problem, he didn't even need to write a formula to know the answer, which was absolutely impossible for him in the past. What's wrong with me? This is definitely not Yeji making a fuss, but this feeling is so strange that it makes him a little confused. He tries to write down his answer, even if it is a few difficult questions, he can't waste him more than 5 minutes. If he does it too fast, he himself will worry about making mistakes. But even if he checked it carefully, he couldn't find any mistakes, as if it was the standard answer at all. A 120-minute exam. He spent almost half an hour of days, and then spent another half an hour answering all the questions. He looked at the exam paper in front of him, and was still immersed in the feeling of solving the question, until he felt a sudden change in front of him. Flowers, a burst of intense tiredness flooded my heart. The whole person became dizzy. Finally, Yeji's head smashed lightly on his arm, and then fell into a deep sleep, gradually losing consciousness completely. Until a familiar bell rang in his ear. The school bell? No, this is already the bell for class. Sleeping God, are you awake? Yeji had just woken up, but his mind was still a little unclear. He subconsciously wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth. He slept really well this time, and his saliva was drooling a lot. The boy who was talking to Yeji suddenly shouted, "Hey, buddy!" He gave a thumbs up. "I must admit, you are a real beer." "What kind of beer?" The boy approached Yeji mysteriously. "Do you know what happened when you just slept?" "I don't know." Yeji's voice trembled slightly. "What happened?" Looking at the other party's expression, Yeji suddenly had a very ominous premonition in his heart. Although the classmate hadn't said it yet, he was very sure that this would definitely not be good news for him. Thinking of Yeji's feet, the classmate couldn't help laughing. "Pfft, you're a real beer, your saliva has made the whole scratch paper wet," and when the exam was over, Shizui Shitai shouted. "You didn't respond for a long time, but Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com finally forcibly raised your head and hands to collect your test paper. Even after all this, you still didn't feel it. I saw her face when she left. It's all black, ha 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 ha." Yeji feels eyes gradually focused on him. From the eyes of his classmates, he read emotions such as jokes, admiration, disdain, etc., to name a few. If possible, Yeji really wanted to find a hole to burrow into immediately. "Don't be so embarrassed. If it wasn't for your snoring while sleeping, Mrs. Mimi would have wanted to call the school doctor just now." Yeji's heart is full of despair. "Classmate, Li Shichhen's skin, let me know." "Haha, did you go all night yesterday?" "This. I really don't." Not only did he not stay all night, he even went to bed on time at 10 o'clock and slept until 6 in the morning. The quality of his sleep was excellent. Just at this time, there were footsteps outside the door, and the teacher came. "Yeji has just slept for almost 2 hours. The math test is over, and the next one is the English test. The school arranged a physical examination this morning, so the situation is a bit special. Compact. The exam begins, put away your English textbooks and reference materials." This time, the invigilator was the head teacher of class 4. Maybe it was because he was sitting at the front. Before he could think about it, the test papers had already been sent to Yeji. Moreover, Yeji keenly noticed. The invigilator couldn't help but glance at him, as if he was observing him. He hurriedly looked down at the question, but immediately realized that something was wrong. "No, why am I so guilty? No cheating. Isn't it just sleeping for the exam, and I have obviously finished all the questions. Before I start writing, let me say that although this is just a mock test, I still hope that you can take it seriously. Even if you have finished the questions, you should check them carefully. Teacher Li doesn't mind, but it doesn't mean I don't mind. If someone invigilates me when you go to bed, I hope you can be more conscious. I allow you to submit the papers in advance, and then go to sleep elsewhere." Yeji had a good heart. Is this teacher referring to sang and scolding Hawaii? No, he is obviously referring to Hawaii and scolding Hawaii. Although he didn't look at himself and said it, everyone knew that he was definitely talking about him. Yeji didn't even have to look up to know that all the candidates in the class were looking at him. Hold on. After looking at the test paper a few times, although I still feel that the question is a bit too simple, it is still relatively normal. After all, he is also a person who has passed Set 8 in English. Appear. After writing the entire test paper with ease, she was still full of energy and did not feel faint. After writing the test paper and there was nothing left to do, Ye Ji began to analyze the reason for that special state during the previous test. I remember it was like highly concentrated. Otherwise, try it. Just when I had such an urge, I was thrown out of my head by Ye Ji. If I fall asleep later, I'm afraid I'll offend the teacher again. I'd better try again at night. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry. Are you a vegetarian? Not vegetarian. I think so, but once such a thought arises, it is not something he can control if he wants to control it. His strong curiosity drives him to verify now, whether that state really exists, and whether it is through spirituality. Access in a centralized way. Just a moment, just a moment. Still can't hold back. However, luck is not bad. He succeeded. The previous state was not his illusion, but a real existence. After being highly concentrated, Ye Ji once again entered the state of high-speed thinking. In this state, he found that not only his computing power had been greatly improved, but his memory had also become extremely exaggerated. He was even able to clearly capture a fragment of his own memory, even if it may be just a trivial thing. In this state, he can recall every detail of what he has experienced. The feeling of being immersed in this state is really too wonderful. After entering this state, Ye Ji can't help but have a feeling, whether it is the illusion that any problem can be easily solved. Then, he couldn't control it again, and almost fell asleep again. Once you enter this wonderful state, you will really become addicted. So dangerous, so dangerous. Although he didn't fall asleep, he was still a little confused. He managed to carry the test until the end of the test and handed in the test paper, but Ye Ji didn't even know how he got home in the end. Eat and fall asleep. Is Mr. Li's math test paper in Class 1 finished? Teacher Li Yun took off her glasses and rubbed her temples. It's almost the same, but a few more. How about it? The difficulty of the test paper this time is still a bit too big for the children. The average score of the children is about 90 points, barely passing. The average score of Class 1 is only 90. The full score is 150. It is indeed a little bit more difficult. But it's not without surprises. How? But Ye Ji, this kid gave me a big surprise. How to say? When Mr. Li Yun mentioned Ye Ji, he was also a little bit dumbfounded. In today's exam, I felt that he seemed a little weird. It took only 1 hour to finish all the exam papers, and then I heard from the students that I actually slept until the start of the English test and didn't wake up. Is this a surprise? But he got full marks. It is estimated that he should be the only one in the whole grade with full marks. The dean was shocked, but frowned at random. Could it be that the exam questions were leaked? Although Ye Ji's grades are usually good, you know the difficulty this time. How could he? No, I personally chose the topic this time, and I can be sure that it will never be leaked in advance. Are you sure? Is there any possibility of cheating? He was sitting right under my nose. There should be no possibility of cheating, but the speed of this kid's problem solving really made me a little unbelievable. I finished writing all the questions in half an hour. Blind selection is the same as fill-in-the-blank questions. The dean was stunned. This. Teacher Li Yun shook her head. Ye Ji's abnormal performance today also made her pay special attention. I just asked Teacher Wang, English invigilator, specially. He also fell asleep in today's English test, and he passed 147, only the composition is deducted 3 points. After a while, the dean took a deep breath. His tone was a bit heavy, and he couldn't tell his emotions. Well, tomorrow's science, comprehensive and Chinese exams, UU reading www.uuganshu.com Class 1, I will invigilate the exam. I would like to see what is going on with this kid, if he really didn't cheat, and if his grades in science, comprehensive and Chinese are also good this time. Let's transfer him to Class 1, how about it? It depends on his own will. Li Zong has always been his forte. If he performs normally this time, he may be the first in the grade in this mock test. Li Yun still trusts Ye more. She didn't think Ye would cheat. Ye returned to his classroom and wrote in English in his diary, May 23, 2014. Sunny. There is no air conditioner in the classroom, I will be heated into a dog. I insisted on finishing the 2 papers, but in the end, there was still no pretty lady who invited me to eat so much cuteness, so I wrote it down. Shen Lu poked Yeji's arm with a pen, leaves. Yeji stopped writing, speak. How was your performance? How did I hear that you slept during the exam? It's okay, it should be stable. How stable is it? Stable as an old dog. Yeji is quite confident in the results of this test. At least he can basically get full marks in mathematics and science. As for English and Chinese, let's do it. Buddhist candidates, the mood is so good. Of course, if Shen Lu knew what he was thinking at the moment, maybe he couldn't help but slap him in the face. You'll be fine. Shen Lu was lying on her desk in despair. She was not as lucky as Yeji. The difficulty of this exam was really a bit too big for her, and she didn't perform very well. I'm afraid this time, A cool song for you. What is cool? Yeji was stunned for a moment, and then he remembered that in Langxing, there seems to be no such song as Liang Liang, let alone the stock of Liang Liang. No, nothing. No? No wonder. Seeing that he had something to say, Shen Lu couldn't help but feel a little emotional, thinking, this guy must have a secret. Definitely. But she also has no position to ask questions, and can only bury this question silently in her heart, waiting for a chance to find out more in the future. Next week's parent-teacher meeting. My head is big, if you let me. My mother knew that I failed the exam, and it must have been an ugly death. Can you say something other than What do you want to hear? Shen Lu bit her cherry lips lightly. What she wanted to hear, would he say it? Obviously not. Yeji suddenly had a hand on his shoulder. It was none other than Blue Star Yeji's buddy Han Xia, who had been in the same class since junior high school. He was a big idiot, with average appearance, but his family was rich and well-nourished. So tall as a bamboo pole, almost 185. Han Xia leaned forward and said, Hey, I said, what ears are you two biting? Tell me too. Yeji, tell me about the exam. Han Xia sat down next to Yeji, it's boring. What do you want us to say? Forget it, you won't go to the internet cafe with me anyway. Han Xia patted Yeji on the shoulder with a lot of strength. Wait, let's have a meal together and sing K at night, how about it? Yeji smiled and shook his head, rejecting Han Xia's kindness. No, I didn't tell my family in advance, my mother should have already cooked my meal. Han Xia slapped his forehead, and he forgot about it, but he didn't care about it. Although his grades were average, his mentality was also sloppy. As the saying goes, if you are drunk at the moment, the exam has already been completed, and the outcome has been decided, but he is going to take Yeji to accompany him to go out for a wave. Oh, I said, why you are so rigid? Let's go, haven't you been to Sing K yet? Yeji thought for a while and replied, you can go after dinner at home. Alright, then it's settled. I'll get a few more beautiful girls in the evening, hee. Pretty girl? Shen Lu was alert, and immediately took Han Xia's hand away from Yeji's body. If you want to go, go by yourself, don't pull on the leaves. Hey, man-woman, do you care about this too? You can't see it. After school, melodious music began to play in the school, and the students slowly poured out of the school. Maybe because of the weekend, there are smiles on their faces, very innocent smiles, in this student age, whether on Earth or on Blue Star. It is the most memorable time. They don't have to bear the pressure from society, they only have learning in their world. High school life is really fulfilling. Because, in high school, they will be immersed in their studies at any time. They will always strive for the goal of the college entrance examination. They are always doing homework and reviewing questions and watching learning videos. Their schedules are full every day, unlike in the future, although they have more time and opportunities to control themselves, they will never have a full life like high school. Not in a lifetime. The most important thing is that high school is also the time when youth is budding. Every boy must have a girl he likes when he is in high school. Yeji, the mother of the earth, had one too. In the past, when I went to the playground to do radio gymnastics every morning, I especially wished to see her a few more times. Every night during self-study, when I go out to buy something during the break, I hope to pass by their classroom and look at her. Although, in the end, it was just a crush. Walking on the path home from outside the school, Hansya leaned on Yeji's shoulder and glanced back from time to time, as if worried about someone following her. Really, why is this woman so annoying? She also cares when we go to sing AK. She may also be kind. You said, did she like you? Did you see him? Yeji shook his head, he didn't think so. Now, maybe because he didn't know how to take care of it for a long time, his originally handsome face looked a little bad, and he was not nourished enough. He was a second-year high school student, and he was only 1.74 meters tall, not short, but not tall. One is poor and the other is white, with a dull personality and a bit too low-key. Although his grades have always been good at his age, but in the class, he has always been under the spotlight. Well, yes, a man like her is so ugly that ghosts like her. Yeji shook his head. Hansya still looked too superficial, although Shen Lu now has a handsome short haircut for boys, and even girls like her look, in terms of appearance alone, even if it is not a school beauty, that is also a big beauty at the level of flowers. It definitely has nothing to do with ugly words. Of course, although boys of Hansya's age have started to surge in hormones and are full of countless fantasies about the opposite sex, most of them still like cute girls with long hair fluttering, and they don't like Shen Lu, which is actually quite normal. Yeah, you reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Let me tell you, a super cute girl has been transferred from class 1 recently. That. Suddenly, Hansya grabbed Yeji's shoulder and shook it vigorously. Are we brothers? Can I say no? Hansya immediately became anxious. Don't sigh, old iron, I can count on you. Help me find out her name when you have time. I'm not in class 1. Oh, who doesn't know about the reclassification this time? You must help me. I shouldn't go to class 1. Ah? No, this exam is for class placement, don't you tell me you failed the exam. It should be pretty good. Then why don't you go? Maybe it's just that I just can't bear you. Hansya was moved, and immediately gave Yeji a big bear hug. Wow! Yeji, you, don't say it, good brother, I thought you must be going to class 1, haha, then I'll ask myself, haha, that's great. Looking at Hansya's sincere smile, Yeji could clearly feel his happiness and joy. Although he just found a random reason to prevaricate it. My heart is inexplicably warm. This was something he had never experienced on Earth. He smiled slightly. Anyway, I was pretty good in class 5, and I learned the same way, no difference. That's right, for a scholar like you, what's the difference? In the future, it's not Tsinghua Peking University or Fudan Jiaotong University. Hansya's mood is quite good now, hurry up, let's find a place to drink after dinner. Singke, be cool. Not today, next time. I'll go, you don't really like that man, do you? Why do you listen to her like that? Yeji shook his head. It wasn't because of her that he didn't go. But there are other plans. In high school, although learning is still the main color after all. But Yeji also had the idea of taking advantage of the reborn to earn some money to help his family, but this is easy to say, but not so easy to do. His current identity is just a high school student who has nothing. No way, no capital, just empty ideas but don't know how to implement them. Earth's memory does not allow him to know Blue Star's future, so at the beginning, he was really at a loss. Is it really the only way to become a copywriter? The corner of Yeji's mouth raised a strange arc. In this era of information explosion, just like the Earth, all the ways to make a lot of money quickly have basically been written in the criminal law, not to mention that with Yeji's current conditions, there are really not many choices that he can make, even he now even become the capital of Wen Chaogong. Nothing. Because he doesn't have the tools for coding. There is no computer at home, nor does he have a mobile phone. The only pastime after returning home is watching TV. Yeji felt that it had nothing to do with him being able to study so calmly before. Without the temptation of computers and mobile phones, in addition to watching TV at home every day, I can only quietly read books and study materials. Of course, people always come up with solutions. But Yeji did not choose to speak to Hansya in the end. Although he knew that as long as he spoke, Hansya's temperament would definitely help him without hesitation. However, Yeji felt that it didn't matter if he owed money. He mainly didn't want to owe it. Favor. I don't have a computer at home, can I still write by hand? Is it okay to write an outline first when writing an incomplete essay? You can also practice calligraphy by the way. Isn't it? Anyway, don't be in a hurry. However, if you write it by hand, you will definitely not be able to write those super long novels that once became popular on the internet. It would take tens of thousands of words to write just the outline. It is not impossible to write anything by hand, but it is a waste of time. Yeji remembered a book he had read in high school. The Sojourner. This book became one of his options. The book The Sojourner can be said to be a restoration of the drunken life, dreaming and death in the war years. This is undoubtedly a work that not only reflects on history, explores the value of human nature, but also has an expression method that is easily accepted and understood by modern people. It is indeed an excellent work. But Yeji was thinking, is it appropriate to create such a work from the pen of a high school student? Shouldn't it be inappropriate? After struggling for a long time, he still gave up this tempting choice. Forget it, let's make a quick and gradual progress. Zhu Xian. It is a book that many reborn people will choose, because it is really popular, and it is really well written. Although it is a small white text, it depicts a poignant and magnificent fairy tale story, and relatively speaking, the number of words also less, the storyline is also impressive. Sister Ye Xi's voice came from outside the room. Yeji, come out to eat. Well, I see. When I finish writing this paragraph, it will be fine soon. Hurry up. The whole world is waiting for you, I'm starving to death. Listening to his sister's natural cute voice, thinking of his hungry father who just got off work, and his mother who worked hard to cook, Yeji stopped writing. Although Zhu Xian's outline, he only wrote about a few hundred words. This efficiency, it really makes him very dissatisfied. I still need to find a way to get a computer. Although he can write down the outline now, he still needs tools for coding and so on. The speed of writing is far less than that of typing, so he gave up the idea of handwriting the outline. How to make money before digging out your first pot of gold is indeed a very serious problem. Dad. Father Yi's voice was a little hoarse. How was the test today? Good. That's good. Keep it up. Your head teacher told me last time that as long as you keep it up, you will have no problem going to Fudan University. Dad, can you go to the parent-teacher meeting next Wednesday? Dad pondered for a while, then looked at his mother's face. He had promised her before, so he smiled and said, I have been going for 3 semesters, let your mother go this semester, and let her suffer too. Praise. For the 3 semesters before high school, Ye had always been at the top of his class, and his grade rank was basically within the top 50. Therefore, every time he held a parent meeting, he naturally became the object of praise from the teacher. His father had a simple temperament. I was embarrassed to be praised when I held a parent-teacher meeting. Saying that, Father Ye took a piece of meat and put it in Yeji's bowl. Eat more, it's still growing, it's not good to be too thin. My mother didn't cook many meat dishes. There was only such a small plate for each meal. My parents ate it sparingly. Yuyukanshu www.yuyuganshu.com. Delicious food would be left to Yeji and my sister first, and they always ate it. Some leftovers, scraps, certainly not enough to eat, but they never mention it in front of their children. In the past, Yeji's thoughts were too simple to understand, but now he. Looking at the wrinkles at the corners of Dad's eyes and the increasingly rough skin with age, his eyes couldn't help but get wet. This man is really suffering. Because he had suffered from a lack of education since he was a child, he had been very strict with his two children since he was a child, beating and scolding, which was commonplace, and when he was disobedient, it was really hard to do it. Hated him. It's just that, later, well, the scar forgets the pain. In the past, Yeji from Blue Star would also hate his father for not loving himself, and for his incompetence, not being able to create a better environment for his mother. He is not a saint, of course it is impossible not to be happy with things and not to be sad about himself. Occasionally, he will envy the superior family environment of his classmates, envy his classmates for wearing nice clothes, envy them for buying fun game consoles, and envy everything that can be envied. But when he noticed his rough hands, the marks left by the years on his face, and his father's loving and proud eyes when he looked at Yeji, Yeji felt very uncomfortable. Regret? Distressed? Possibly both. For my father, Yeji and Yexi are the greatest pride in his life. His love for his brother and sister is very deep and deep. The two couples eat frugally every day, and always try their best to leave the best for him and his sister. Even for the new year, the food is not rich, but both brothers and sisters love to eat. And this is all they can do. Yeji knows how to cherish, so he loves his father and mother. No matter how badly he eats, he can always save money for Yeji and his sister to go to school. Yeji admits that his math scores are not bad, but there are formulas that can be set and substituted, but he still doesn't know how to calculate, because he has never calculated correctly. Sometimes when I really think about it, I cry. The man doesn't cry easily, but, whenever he thinks of these, he really can't control it. Dad, eat more. I also eat with my classmates outside. Father Ye was overwhelmed with relief and choked up. Okay, Ye is sensible, haha, Dad, eat more, eat more. Mom, so are you. Yexi, if you are diligent, you must have failed the exam. Facing the arrogant younger sister, Yeji shook his head and did not explain. Since his parents regarded him as their pride, let's continue to be so proud. Sometimes I think about it, in fact, it's nothing to be a father's baby not good. Dad, I want to buy a computer. Why do you suddenly want to buy a computer? Computers are not expensive in this day and age, but even if you just buy a poorly equipped one, it will cost 1 or 2,000 yuan, and it will cost Dad almost half a month's salary. For the Ye family, this is a luxury. However, from the last semester, Yeji received the school's scholarship and poverty allowance. After paying the tuition, there was still some left over. Dad didn't spend it, so he should have saved the money. The school needs to learn to do PPT, and I want to learn some computer things in advance, which will be useful in the future. He is lying. The eyes were very frank, so Dad believed it. Okay, buy it, but you have to promise me that you must study hard, you know. Actually, when Dad was outside, he didn't talk much, because he always felt that he would easily offend people if he said too much. But when he got home, he was a talker. He always liked to talk about what happened at work. He often said that he had missed many good opportunities. He always said that if he hadn't missed it, the family might have made a fortune long ago. If he seized that opportunity, he and his sister could have a good life. If he wasn't so conservative back then, he would be able to take his family to travel all over the country. I couldn't hear anything before. I always thought my father was long-winded. Now that I understand it, I feel very sad. My father's remorse is more of a guilt for the family, so Yeji patiently listened to his father's nagging for the first time. Early the next morning, my father kept his promise and went with him to the computer city to buy a second-hand laptop. The configuration was terrible, but there was no problem with typing. The price won Yeji's first laptop in his life. Yeah, take it home yourself, Dad works overtime in the afternoon. Okay, Dad, pay attention to safety. Dad didn't say a word, patted Yeji on the shoulder, turned around and left, while Yeji returned home with the heavy laptop in his hand. The computer is not heavy, but his sense of responsibility is what is heavy. When he got home, Yeji didn't start coding immediately, but reinstalled the operating system. By the way, he was looking for his feelings. Yeji used to be a designer. But there are many kinds of designers: graphic design, space design, magazine cover designer, packaging designer, image designer, and so on. And what he is engaged in is spatial design. In short, he studied the construction industry. Computer, that's what he uses to eat. When he installed the system on the computer, his sister Yexi couldn't help but leaned forward. Yeji, what are you doing? Reinstalling the system. This system is too laggy for this computer, and it charges 100 yuan every day. I'll change it for free. Oh. Yexi didn't understand, so she was very curious. In some respects, Blue Star's technological level is not as good as Earth's, but some aspects are particularly developed, such as clean energy. Blue Star's environmental protection has really achieved the ultimate level. Electricity has been completely completed before the 21st century. Substitute coal, gasoline, and other fuels. But from a designer's point of view, Yeji felt that this place is really low. Very low. Even in the city of Modu, the night scene is not even comparable to some third and fourth tier cities on the earth. The planning is very good, but the architectural style makes him disagree. Even some landmark buildings have a lot of design slot. No, it should be said that there is no design aesthetic at all. The lowest is not these. The lowest is the entertainment industry. Compared with Blue Star, the entertainment industry on Earth is almost booming. The entertainment industry here seems to be stuck in the 1980s and 1990s. But the network is well developed. 100 megabit optical fiber covered the whole country as early as 10 years ago, and gigabit optical fiber also covered most of the first-tier cities 3 years ago. The magic capital naturally bears the brunt. Of course, broadband also has to be paid, although it is not expensive, 500 yuan a year, you can enjoy a 1000m broadband network. But, not to mention 500, but even 100, Yeji couldn't come up with it. Fortunately, under the government's advocacy, all parts of the city are covered with free Wi-Fi networks, which is of course nothing compared to the exclusive gigabit broadband, but there is no pressure to write a novel and upload it. After reinstalling the system, Yeji started coding. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com, but he was very desperate to find that even Office was charged. A domestic office software individual user for 1 year and 50 years, he could only give up and use the text tool that comes with Windows instead. Come to control. Yeji, what are you fighting? Writing a novel. Little Yexi puffed up her face. Didn't you say you want to study? I want to tell Dad. You lied. This kid is really not a fuel-efficient lamp. Yeji rubbed her little head, but writing novels can make money, and when my brother makes money, it will make parents easier, and Zixi can also buy nice clothes. Already? Real? Of course it's true. Then I won't tell Dad, but you made money, you want to buy me delicious food, and I want to eat Haagen-Dazs. It is good. Haagen-Dazs is actually nothing, but in Yexi's world, it's already an out-of-reach snack. Without the interruption of his sister, after Yeji became familiar with the keyboard of the notebook, he started his own creation with a bang. With the state of overclocking, with his ultimate hand speed of being single for more than 30 years, he wrote Zhu Xian. The outline only took about half an hour to complete. This efficiency is really incomparable to handwriting. Immediately afterwards, he didn't waste any time, and soon registered the author number on the website Kidian, the most popular online novel website in Blue Star China, verified his personal information with his real name, uploaded a brief introduction, and created the book Zhu Xian. I have to say that the efficiency of Jian Dian is very high. It took less than 5 minutes to pass the review. Yeji's creative path. It's officially started. Reality is always different from fiction. There is no such thing as becoming a copywriter and immediately gaining super popularity. Although Yeji didn't think that he would become popular as soon as he uploaded the novel, and then make money immediately, but after he uploaded 5 or 6 chapters excitedly, he found that the only click of Zhu Xian was actually by himself. After the loss is inevitable. But there is no such thing as depression, it is gold, and it will always shine, even if it is another time and space. In the beginning, I was always more passionate about creation. After coding for a long time, I wrote almost 100,000 words. This efficiency is quite good, although the hit rate of Zhu Xian is still only a few pitiful. The recommendation ticket is only the one that I gave, and it hangs alone on the web page. Come on! Yeji, you can do it! Self-suspect? Yeji won't do that. Perseverance is the most practical way to success. The popularity of novels is not achieved overnight, but also needs to be accumulated slowly. Today is only the first day he started to write. A temporary malaise does not mean anything. Take your time and see. In the book review section, he left this sentence. High school dog, I'm sorry for not being able to reply to your comments as soon as possible, but I hope you all like this book, thank you. Only. To his surprise, after leaving this comment, there was a reply within 2 minutes. Come on, the writing is very good and delicate, and the setting of Xiangxia is also very innovative. 3 recommendations are supported. Thank you, I will try my best. Although there is not much support, Yeji likes the feeling of being recognized. After coming to Blue Star, he realized that he was really lonely before, so lonely that he didn't even realize that he was lonely. It is exactly like this. When you are recognized, you will be moved several times over. Child Yexi just came home from playing with the child, and came to Yeji's room excitedly as soon as she entered the door. Yeji, Yeji, have you made any money? How can it be that fast? It will take at least 3 or 4 months. Yeji said with a wry smile. Does this count as being slapped in the face? Yexi pursed her lips in disappointment, it's been so long. Money is not so easy to earn. This is really a sentence from Yeji's heart. Looking at Lan Xing's parents and thinking about his former self, Yeji felt a little complicated. Although his former self could not be called rich dick, he was also a not bad money person. He didn't need to worry about money since he was a child. He was also very lucky to find a good job. The sky was high, and the income was not low. At that time, he felt that making money or something was really not difficult. But now, only then did he realize that it was because his starting point was too high. It was not so easy to really want to make money from scratch. It's all about what you say. When you make money, I'll eat all you can eat French fries. No. Yexi puffed out her face and kicked her brother, stingy. Yeji fondly touched her sister's cute cheeks, inheriting her parents' appearance. Yet Xi was like a well-crafted doll since she was a child. She was too cute, especially when she was angry and acting like a spoiled child. What resistance? Although he can quarrel and bicker, yet Xi's status in his heart is not low at all. In fact, when my parents were young, they were actually very good looking. When they were young, they didn't have a beauty camera and didn't like makeup. Much better looking. When I think of the photos of my parents when they were young, compared to them now, Yeji will be more motivated to learn and code. If you eat too many fries, you will get pimples, and you won't look good when you grow up. Really? Your teacher didn't tell you, is that junk food? But it's really delicious. Although she is young, her love for beauty is not small at all. Yeji said it's not good looking and she backed away. After chatting with Yeji, he made money. What did she want to eat, what did she want to buy, until her mother said she wanted to have dinner. Remember, don't tell my parents before I really make money, you know. Yet Xi shook her hands impatiently. I know, you are really long-winded. How many times have you said it? I'm not as stupid as you. I promise not to tell my parents. If after all, you don't have to buy me Haagen-Dazs, okay? That's what you said. Humph. On Wednesday, Yet Xi's diary wrote, May 28, 2014, it was sunny and very hot, I was going to faint from the heat. Yeji, the idiot, still didn't buy me ice cream, and didn't come to pick me up from school. For the sake of being in a good mood, I'll just let him go. If he didn't buy me ice cream on August 28, I would be angry. This big liar. As for the parent-teacher meeting, my mother is in a really good mood, very good. Why? Is that even a question? This time, my baby son took the first grade exam for the first time. It is even 50 points higher than the second place, with full marks in mathematics, full marks in science, 145 in Chinese, and 147 in English. Teacher Yu Kanshu www.yuyuganshu.com is still named and praised in the class. What can be better than this? What makes mom happier? The baby son really gave her a long face. In order not to embarrass her son as much as possible, my mother was wearing her most expensive piece of clothing today. Although the clothes were still washed a little whitish. But no one will despise her. On the contrary, many parents are asking her for advice on how to teach their children. In fact, my mother has always been a little worried that Yeji will not be seen by the teachers at school. After all, she has seen it more than once. Many parents always give this to the teacher during the festivals, but their family really can't send anything. But her son gave her such a big surprise. Mom, are you back? Yeji, who was still coding, heard the familiar footsteps of his mother, and instantly switched the page of the notebook to the self-study page, and turned around without changing his face, as if nothing had happened. I'm back. Mom took out Yeji's test paper from the bag while putting it away. Yeah, the teacher showed you in front of my mother today, saying that you are good. If you can keep it up, you will definitely be able to take the Tsinghua exam. North University. Yeji smiled lightly, he already knew this. Mom, it's getting late. Go and rest. Don't study too late. It is good. After the parent-teacher meeting, some people are happy and some are sad. Hearing from Han Xia, he fell asleep last night, but he was pulled up and beaten by his father. At first, his mother stopped him, but when he heard about Han Xia's test results, points, it becomes men's and women's mixed doubles. Pia 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 clap clap. Han Xia rubbed her still hot back. Yeji, if I had half your score, I wouldn't be beaten like this. Yeji didn't look up at him, his eyes kept on the math problem left by the teacher, and he quickly solved the problem on the scratch paper. Who told you to read novels all day in class? If you can listen carefully, how many classes can I take to get this score? Although not the last in the class. But There is only one missing. Hans Ya is an optimist, always smiling, but after being beaten last night, he was also a little depressed. Hey, I really can't listen, I don't understand at all, you know, I listen. When Shitai spoke, it was like listening to Martian texts. Ye Ji smiled helplessly, he couldn't help with this matter. Ma'am, how about you? Originally, Shen Lu was biting her pen and doing the questions wholeheartedly. When she heard someone calling her, she frowned and raised her head. Why? Didn't you take the second test? What's the use of second place, which is almost 2 percentage points away from Yezi's first place? My mother almost peeled me off. Shen Lu said with a resentful look at Yeji. Outburst, her score should also satisfy her mother. Okay. Hans Ya lay down on the table in despair. I really want to be a scholar, I also really want to pretend. Yeji couldn't help laughing. Then you're studying, and you don't even write your homework. Yeah, why did you come out of 9-year compulsory education? You can be so beautiful, please answer directly. That's also the lumbar disc, why can you stand out so much? Shen Lu was just listening quietly to the side. When she heard this conversation, she couldn't help laughing, and quickly covered her mouth. Although it was a self-study class, it was not allowed to speak loudly in the self-study class, so she quickly lowered her head. Volume, Pfjezi, when did you learn to be so funny? I'm done, hand in the homework. With that said, Yeji covered his textbook and handed it over to the podium. Hans Ya immediately became anxious. I'll go. Yeji. You're too fast, I haven't copied it yet. To this, Yeji's answer was only 3 words, write it myself. Now, he has made 3 short-term plans for himself. First, keep exercising for more than an hour every day. Second, insist on updating 2 chapters of Zhu Xian every day. Third, study music for an hour a day. Because he didn't have the money to enroll in music, and there was no expert guidance, Yeji could only improve himself in his own way. Except for the sudden increase in the state of overclocking, Yeji, the reborn, really has no other golden fingers. Everything has to start from scratch. Although the beginning of everything is difficult, if you can't even take the first step, there is no more hope. Fortunately, however, the school's music classroom has always been open to students. Usually, there are not many people. Yeji plans to read some books and video tutorials on vocal music first, and then ask the music teacher for advice when he has the opportunity. Step by step. Every day gains, every day grows. If an ordinary person learns vocal music like Yeji, it is difficult to learn anything, but he has a unique overclocking state. Even if he just watches videos and books to learn, he can quickly learn skills and experience. In such persistence. A month passed before I knew it, and the summer vacation was approaching. This month, Yeji's persistence has not been in vain. His changes have been huge, from the inside out. I insist on regular exercise every day. After a month, the effect is still relatively obvious. My body that was weak has gradually become stronger. I have also gained a lot in the study of vocal music. This month's study has also been successfully taught. Highly recognized by Teacher Wang of music. Yeah, you are really talented in vocal music. Teacher Wang sat on the side, closed his eyes and silently listened to Yeji's soulful singing. Yeji's voice condition is not bad. It has a hoarse voice in the deep, full of magnetism. It can be high or low, and the vocal range is very wide, so he can sing a lot of songs, and he is very humbly learning. It's only a month. Since then, he has already begun to master some relatively elementary singing skills. If it's not that there is too little time to practice every day, I would be distracted to learn other things. Mr. Wang felt that with Yeji's ability to learn and comprehend, from the beginning he knew nothing about vocal music, he may now have the level of an amateur bar resident singer. As a person who studied vocal music, Mr. Wang is very aware of the difficulty. Ugh! He let out a long sigh. After Ye showed his great talent in music, Mr. Wang really hoped that Ye could truly embark on the path of music, but unfortunately, he didn't even know how to say this. Ye is not only talented in music. He is also the first of the year. It's almost the kind that is guaranteed to go to a famous school. In China, as we all know, compared to other majors, music is only a niche major. Except for some art students, few people will really choose it as their future path. Yuuganshu www.yuuganshu.com Especially a student like Ye who is excellent in both character and study. Teacher, I'm done singing. Teacher Wang took a deep breath, looked at Ye calmly, and commented, Yeah, you are very smart. In fact, you have basically mastered the basics of vocal music, but you are not familiar enough with the details. Just now this place, the pitch is not enough, and also, singing, you must have emotions, and skills alone are not enough, you have to try to turn skills into instinct, and then put more emotions into it. Clear? Every time you are in love, you will be a little bit uncontrollable, and you will always worry about breaking the sound, and then it will be difficult to find the original feeling. Here the teacher wants to tell you, don't worry so much, singing is also a way of venting, although technique is also important, emotion is just as important, it doesn't matter if the sound is broken, but you must sing your feelings. Listening to Mr. Wang's deficiencies pointed out to himself, he also took notes for some points that he felt was more important and might not be remembered. Although he can easily recall these things when he is overclocking, he doesn't want to rely too much on the state of overclocking. Although this state is easy to use, it also consumes a lot of energy. Once used for a certain period of time, it will go to sleep directly. However, after using the overclocking state for a month, Ye also discovered a pattern. The more overclocking state is used, the time he can enter this state every day will gradually increase, although it may only be extended for a short period of time. Just a few seconds. But after a month, it became more obvious. It's just that he uses it every day when he is studying and updating Zhu Xian. In other places, if he cannot use it, he will not use it. On June 24, 2014, there is still one day before the last exam of the second year of high school. Han Xia excitedly grabbed Yeji's arm when he came to school this morning and forced Amway, Yeah, Yezi, I found a super nice novel yesterday. I tell you, if you don't read it, you will definitely regrettable. Yeji bookmarked discrete mathematics and its applications in his hand, and then covered it. Is it so beautiful? Anyway, it must be much better than the book in your hand. Only then did Han Xia notice the name of the book Yeji was reading, and he knew at a glance that it must be the kind of boring. It's not for entertainment. And this book is simple and easy to understand. You only need high school level knowledge. This book can help people learn how to use mathematical thinking and arouse their interest in mathematics. It is quite interesting. We are different. What's the difference? It's just different. Yeji didn't want to enter an infinite loop with Han Xia again. Let's talk about your novel. This book was recommended to me by my goddess. Han Xia's goddess is the girl who transferred to class 1 more than a month ago. She is quite cute. I heard that many people are chasing her. Oh. I thought that girls who like books shouldn't be able to read it, but I just read 2 chapters and couldn't stop reading it. It's just that this author is really lazy, and there are too few updates. There are only more than 80 chapters, so I just read it at once. It's over. So, having said so much, what about the title of the book? Zhu Xian M.I.M. How is it? Isn't the name cool? Let me tell you, the subject matter is also very novel. It's the first time I've read this type of novel. Xiangxia, this author is really creative. I read it before. Martial arts are tired of watching. Is this so embarrassing? Yeji was delighted inwardly, but on the surface he picked up his discrete mathematics and its applications calmly, as if his emotions were not fluctuating. So this is my recommendation for vomiting blood. Can you give me some reaction? Hansya almost vomited blood in depression. Please, just go and see it. Just read it for 3 minutes, and you will fall in love with this novel like me. Yeji, did you read the wrong lines? Okay, Zhazawai, I'll take a look. You can sit down. If you have this time, it's better to read books for a while, and the final exam will be the day after tomorrow. Why? Why? You want to remind me of such a sad thing, aren't we brothers? It was my brother who reminded you, not your mother directly. Hansya is like a defeated rooster, his head is downcast, as the so-called near Zhu Jechi, under the influence of Yeji, he has also regained some interest in learning, and he has also made progress in learning this month. Well, it's just that there are no exams this month, so I don't know how far I have progressed. I said, Yeji, you don't really just like to study, do you? How to say? Just like me, I like to read beautiful girls' papers, novels, and man-in-law like watching anime and TV series. Why do I feel like you only know how to hold your books all day long? Won't you get tired? When Hansya brought up this topic, the man-in-law who was lying down reading a book also pricked up her ears. I also like pretty girls. Hansya suddenly became interested. What type? Let's hear it. Do you like it? My brother will help you with your staff. Not yet. Then you should always have a standard, such as long hair, short hair, melon face, oval face, etc. As for this question, Yeji doesn't know it himself. It seems that the girls he likes in high school, college, and after employment are all different. There are long hair, short hair, melon-shaped faces, and round faces. Is it fancy? Yes, let's talk about it. Shen Lu was very curious about this question. It seems that everyone who is beautiful likes it. Is this answer so standard? Hansya didn't give up. Bullshit. What kind of thing is it? There must be a goal, right? Yeji thought about it again, and described it according to the appearance of a girl he had a crush on in high school before: bigger eyes, fairer skin, hair. Maybe medium and short hair. The face shape is hard to say, let's see how you feel. But after he finished speaking, he shook his head again, but it's useless to think about it, no one will like me anyway. Shen Lu retorted loudly, who said that? Originally, Hansya had already picked up the textbook and was reading it, but when Shen Lu yelled, he was startled. Why are you reacting so much? No. I just think that a boy like Yeji will definitely have many girls who like him. The more Shen Lu said, the quieter she became, as if she had a guilty conscience. Yeji didn't notice Shen Lu's change. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com just shook his head and didn't speak. Hansya also gave his opinion. That's what I said, the premise is that Yeji can take care of his kelp. Your hairstyle is really ugly, don't want it, and your skin is quite white. Just a few pimples. I have a bottle of acne cream, do you want to use the leaves? No, I can buy it myself if I need it. Don't be polite to me, take it. Hansya subconsciously thought that Yeji was unwilling to accept it because of his self-esteem. He didn't know the situation in Yeji's family, so he bought it himself? In the case that he has to dig a few cents for lunch at school every day, buy a ghost. But what Hansya didn't know was that Yeji wasn't being polite to him, he really wanted to buy it himself. Zhu Xian has been updated for a month. At the beginning, the click-through rate and recommendation were very few. However, as time went by, more and more people knew this book. Readers passed it on by word of mouth, and gradually began to have it. With some fame, recommendations and clicks will naturally come up. This week's recommendation tickets have also risen to more than 1,000. Compared with the single-digit recommendation tickets on the first day of the book's opening, this is a huge improvement. The first time I took the initiative to apply for a contract, I signed it, because I was in a hurry to sign the contract, and no editor in charge took the initiative to come to the door, so I took the initiative to apply. The contract has been sent out last week. Kidion's terms for ordinary authors are basically fixed, and they can be found on the internet. After signing the contract, the website owns the online reading copyright of this book. The copyright of the publication is still in the hands of the author. Internet subscriptions and reward points CDs are 55 to 50. It's all within Yeji's acceptance.